In accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 et sec, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, announcement is made that notice of this meeting has been provided to the Board Secretary to the Daily Record and Star Ledger, published on December 13, 2018, by stating the time, place, and date of all regularly scheduled meetings, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Laura, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Here.
Mr. Kaplan?
Here.
Mr. Prasad?
Here.
Mr. Reddy?
Present.
Ms. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. Willens?
Here.
Mr. Irakane?
Present.
Also with us, Mr. King?
Present.
Mr. Chadwick?
Present.
Mr. Holloway?
Here.
Okay, at this point, I would like to appoint, well, let's do this Pledge of Allegiance first. Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since this is our reorganization meeting for the year, I'd like to appoint Mr. Berkowitz as the temporary chairman, and he will run the meeting.
Second ready.
Thank you.
And
Do we have to vote?
You just
We
yeah,
need-
just
we
call
need a
roll call.
roll call.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Mr. Irakane?
Yes.
All right, I'd open the floor for nominations for chairperson of the Board of Adjustment.
I would like to nominate Bob Irakane for chairman.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'd like to hear a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Ready.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Congratulations.
I guess congratulations, Mr. Irakane, you're once again the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Berkowitz.
Do you want me to do the rest, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, you can do everything.
All right, I hear, open the floor for motions to grant, to appoint the vice chairperson.
I would like to nominate Nancy Schneider.
Second ready.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, a motion to close the nominations.
Move to close nominations.
Second.
Ready.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Nancy.
Thank you.
Uh, All right. Well, we did the
And
swearing in.
With regard to
Yes.
swearing in, we did Chairman Irakane's, member Reddy, and member Willens prior. So that has been completed. Mr. Jaskowitz, who is not here, we will have to do when he comes to the next meeting.
You
Motion
also,
to,
excuse me, you also have Mr. Holloway, did you?
Mr. Holloway is a professional, the engineer.
Yes.
We have to do you and the three
And-
professionals.
And Mr. Holloway, the professionals don't take oaths of allegiance.
We just have to reappoint them.
You have to reappoint them, but I did, prior to the meeting, put both Mr. Holloway and Mr. Chadwick under oath. You do that instead of every meeting. We do it in the beginning of the year, so they're continuously under oath, and they've affirmed and testified that they will provide the truth, so help them God.
I would like to nominate Nora Jolie to be the Board of Adjustment Secretary.
Second. Snyder.
Move to close nominations.
so moved. Berkowitz.
Anything else?
You just have to do the reappointments of the professionals now, or you want to take it?
I move that we reappoint John Chadwick as planner, Charles Holloway as engineer, and Peter King as attorney for the calendar year 2019.
Second ready.
Okay? Do it all in favor?
Yep, all in favor? Yeah, I got to take a vote.
Already got to do it all in favor. You have to do it all in favor.
You were the one talking.
No, but I was just the one, I was the one that
You made the
appointed, I
motion.
just made the motion.
All in favor of the appointments?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is our first meeting that is going to be videotaped. So if there's an evening when you have nothing to do and there's nothing else on TV, you might want to watch this. I will just tell members of the public that may be watching this at a future date that this is a quasi-judicial board. It's appointed by the council. We appoint our own secretary, our own engineer, our own planner, our own attorney, and we hear sworn testimony. That's why I said it's quasi-judicial. All members of the public who wish to make application for a variance must come and be sworn in and present their case. Now, Parsippany is a kind of a unique place in a lot of ways because we have a lot of areas of town that don't conform to the master plan. 40 by 100 lots in Lake Hiawatha, houses that are built in the right-of-way in Mount Tabor, and then there's other things that need to be, variance being to be granted. Sometimes there's a cell tower. I mean, everybody likes to use their cell phone. Well, the reason you can use your cell phone in Parsippany is because we have been very diligent over the years in properly approving cell towers. And now you may notice, and you probably don't notice, there are mini cell sites being put on tops of buildings and places like that. A lot of those need variances. Besides that, there's use variances, which means that you want to put a grocery store in a zone that's zoned industrial, and grocery store is not a permitted use. So the applicant, property owner, applicant has to come before our board and present their case. Okay. Once the applicant has presented its case, members of the public have an opportunity to comment. They also have an opportunity to ask questions. And in the comment section, they are sworn in just like the applicant because they're going to testify. And you may see from time to time where I stop people from making comments because it's not the proper time of the meeting. So this is my 30th year on the board, my 20th as chairman. Mr. Berkowitz has a number of years of experience, some dating back to the 80s, okay? And a number of our other board members have been up here for quite a few years. And I think we're a very fair board, and we try to do the best for the residents and the applicants. Sometimes the applicant may have something that's a little controversial, and we try to deal with that. So, that being said, we will move on with the meeting. We have adoption of resolutions, 1831 and 1663. Would someone like to move those?
So move. I move that we make the adoptions of Resolution 1831 and 1663.
Second ready.
Is there a vote on that? Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Ira Kane.
Yes. Also, at this point in this meeting, is there any member of the public that has any business to be brought to this board that is not on this evening's agenda? I hear none and see none. We have the minutes of November 7th. Someone like to move the minutes of November 7th?
I move the approval of the minutes from November 7, 2018.
Is there a second?
Second Berkowitz.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes of the 28th of November? Someone like to move those?
So moved, Chairman.
Second Kaplan.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes of December 5th.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you.
Second, Kaplan.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. We have a letter from Mr. Garofalo regarding the application this evening. I wish he had come tonight because we haven't time to hear it, but Nora, what did we decide?
We decided, I believe, February 6th.
February 6th? Who's not going to be here February 6th?
I'm not.
You're not. Everybody else will be here? Okay, I have a motion then to carry case 1837 to February 6th without further notice.
So moved.
You'll get whatever extensions are necessary from them, Nora?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is anybody here for the Ishkan case? Baldwin Road? Nobody. Okay, good. All righty.
Start with that.
We also have a situation where an applicant is scheduled for next week, but the notice was in the paper for the 6th. Is that correct, Nora?
It was in the paper for tonight's meeting. Their hearing is next week.
Is anybody here for the Martinez application on St. John's Avenue? Okay, so we're going to, just for formality, we're going to carry this case to next week so that we just cover our bases.
So moved for this Martinez case. to-
Next meeting. I'm sorry.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next week.
No, it's not
No,
not
no.
the next meeting.
It's on for the 6th. It's supposed to be on for February 6th?
I'm sorry, yes, February 6th. I apologize.
Okay, I thought it was on for tonight. I'm sorry.
No, it was
Okay,
noticed tonight,
so
yeah.
so we're going to carry the, so we should do it on February 6th.
The notices were for today, so we're
Oh.
going to carry it.
Oh, okay.
It was
All
noticed
right.
for today.
All right, now I understand. All right, I'm sorry. So do I have a motion to publicly carry application 1865, which originally was scheduled for February 6th, but inadvertently not noticed for tonight?
So moved, Kaplan.
Second ready.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, good. Righty, so we have that, we have that, we have that, and we do not have, so, let's go to this evening's agenda. Case 1852, Vincent Muldaur, 23 Ludlow Road, variance to construct a shed. Please come forward.
Sir, will you be testifying?
Yes.
Okay, could you raise your right hand? You swear the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth so help you God?
Yes.
Right, thank you. And you're the owner of the subject property?
So is my wife, can I bring her up?
Is she going to
She's gonna
testify?
You have to swear her in also.
Yes, but you are the owner of the subject property?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ma'am, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth so help you God? All right, and you're also the owner of the subject property?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You're sworn. You
You
guys
may
may
sit down, just use the microphones when you testify.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have a piece of property on Ludlow Road that looks like it's 50 by, I can't see, 100, 50 by 100. R4 in that area, Mr. Chadwick.
It's a business zone, it's a residential property in a business zone. I don't understand, the existing coverages and et cetera are less than you propose, but you're putting
No,
a
it's
shed.
the other way around.
Existing is 36.1%.
Proposed is less.
Yeah, that's what I'm, how to get
In
less?
May, a thunderstorm uprooted a tree in my backyard, smashing my shed.
Okay.
So the existing shed is no longer existing.
And it was bigger.
It was
Yes, sir.
it was about 10 by 10, 9'3" by 9'10", and I want to replace it with an 8x8 shed.
Amazing.
Yes,
And you came here.
And I was
Yes,
told
sir.
I needed a variance, so that's why I'm here.
that's why
So
we're
you are
here.
not requesting any side yard or rear
No.
yard setbacks?
No.
All you want to do is replace what God took away from you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions by the board?
No, we should be getting
No.
change back here.
Any members of the public have any questions of these witnesses on the testimony given? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, right?
No.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Would somebody like to make we really should make, we should give opinions on why we should approve it, so, especially since we're now on the public record. We're always on the public record.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would be in favor of this application. He's replacing what's been destroyed with actually a smaller shed, so he's gonna be more in compliance than he was before. So I think it's easily approved.
Volunteer to frame a resolution?
I will, Mr. Chairman. In application 1852, Vincent Muldaur, 23 Ludlow Road, Block 325, Lot 5, Zone B4, RD4 per resolution, that we grant a C variance to construct a shed contrary to section 430-10.I and 430-35, columns 10 and 13.
Second, Kaplan.
Any discussion? Nora, please call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. The result is the variance is granted. I'm sorry that you had to come here and spend 2 minutes with us. I hope it was otherwise a pleasant experience for you.
What are my next steps?
Okay, we will memorialize this
And next week.
next week,
Okay.
okay?
don't
And
have
that's
to be
on
here.
Wednesday. On
You don't
Thursday,
have to
you
be
can
here.
come to Nora and get
Okay.
your papers. I don't think you need a building permit because you're under 100 square feet.
Okay.
Is that right?
Okay.
So, once you get the zoning resolution, you're free to go ahead and do whatever you want.
Great, thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
wonderful.
8
Excuse
by
me,
8. You're-
I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes.
After you receive your resolution, you do have to go back to the zoning
Get the-
department for a zoning permit.
Zoning permit. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that's
Yes.
fine.
That's fine. That's
Okay,
good.
but I don't
works.
think you need the building permit because it's under 100 square feet.
You don't have to be here for the memorialization.
Yeah, no, you can just come next Thursday and pick up your papers from Nora.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right,
Have a good
enjoy. Have a nice evening.
Take care.
Okay, let's call Michele Valentin, 70 Minnehaha Boulevard. C variance to install a generator in front yard.
Ma'am, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board is true, so help you God? And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Michele, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, Valentin, V as in Victor, A-L-E-N-T-I-N.
And you're the owner of the subject property?
Correct.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You can see, be seated, please.
I guess you probably never knew you had two front yards, right?
Exactly. I always pictured it as my side yard.
Side yard, yeah, that's, okay, so, this is, you wanna put a generator alongside the house, which effectively is in a front yard, because it's a road. And, I'm gonna ask you, is that the logical place to put it? Is that, you wanna put it there for a reason, that's the logical?
It's the logical place to put it, yes.
Right, and you're only you're still 18 feet you'll still be 18 feet back instead of the 25.
That's correct.
Because I notice in the back you have, is that a deck or
I have a deck and a shed.
deck and a shed?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you went to put it on the other side, you would probably be in the setback, because it doesn't look like you have very much room
Correct.
on the other side. So you'd be here anyway and you probably don't, you're at the, in terms of noise, you're probably at the most benign place for your neighbors.
Correct.
Um,
And this, I'm told these are a little quieter than what your normal gas or diesel generators that I do have, by the way. So this is actually quieter, this is gonna be run on natural gas.
This is a full house automatic?
Full house generator.
Yeah, I have one in my house, and they make a little bit of noise, but it's like a lawnmower running. Okay, any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you'd like to add, right? Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation, please?
Yeah, this is the minimum request that is needed for the family, and I am in favor of this.
Volunteer to frame a resolution? Somebody, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the following resolution in variance for application 1855 Michele Valentin, 70 Minnehaha Boulevard on Block 532, Lot 1, located in the R4 zone, for the requested C variance to install a generator in the front yard, contrary to section 430-35, column 4.
Second ready?
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willand?
Yep.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. You will be able to get your zoning permit next Thursday. You get the paperwork from Nora and you can proceed. I think you do need a building permit though.
Yeah,
Okay, very good. Enjoy.
thank you.
Let's hope there's no storms. Let's hope you don't have to use it. I don't think I've only used mine once in Sandy, so.
That's okay, but it's peace of mind, says I'm a
Oh.
caregiver, so
Well,
my mom's
it's-
medical equipment works, I'm happy.
It's an insurance policy.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Application 1861, Rick and Pushpa Godhani, 1 Waterloo Drive. C variance to install a 6-foot-high solid vinyl fence. Good evening.
So, raise your hand. You swear from the testimony you're about to give before the board, true self you got?
Yes.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Yes, R-I-K-E-S-H. Godani's last name, Godhani.
And you're the owner of the subject property?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You're sworn. You can have a seat, be comfortable.
You're seeking a variance to put a 6-foot-high solid fence, vinyl fence, on a front yard. Looks like you also have, you have 2 front yards?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 30 feet back from the road.
Yeah, I know. You drive around town at all and see what 6-foot-high fences look along the road?
Yeah.
They're not terribly attractive.
Yeah.
And our history, well, it's not 100%, is normally we ask applicants to knock it down to 5 feet and to make it 4 feet high and make the top foot a lattice. You still get 90% privacy.
Okay.
5 foot's high, 5 foot is pretty high.
Okay.
I mean, that's, it's almost as tall as me. Unless you've got a lot of basketball players in your,
I
as
have
neighbor.
a dog who can jump pretty high, so that's one of the reasons.
Well, I mean, if you can make a good case, but I just tell you, they're not attractive. And
Yeah.
and most of the ones that you'll see that are 6 foot high on streets, they were put up without variances.
Okay.
Because,
They're illegal.
they're illegal, yeah. They're illegal, yeah. What you might want to consider doing in conjunction with putting the fence up is putting some sort of vegetation on the inside.
Okay.
Um,
I know we just moved into the house and we just cleared a whole bunch of trees.
Right.
Put the fence in. so
like a
I know the
like
visibility.
a Norway spruce.
Yeah.
A Norway spruce grows at a foot a year,
Mhm.
and I have one in my backyard.
Yeah.
I have a shed that's right on my property line because the house what was built behind me was built before zoning,
Sure.
and it's a big shed. It's about
Mhm.
maybe 12, 13 feet high.
Yeah.
I planted a Norway spruce a few years ago, and you can't see it anymore. You can't see the shed. So you might want to consider putting those on the inside, and that would give you a little bit more privacy. A little bit, I don't think the dog is going to want to jump through a thing. You're agreeable to what I'm saying?
Is there a way we can do maybe 5 foot and then do the see-through part?
I don't know. Let me ask the board if they have any comments about that.
So the fencing, as Mr. Chadwick said, that you're proposing is gonna be approximately 30 feet from Granada or from Waterloo? From Granada, right?
From Granada,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
How high can you do it?
It's pretty high.
Well, okay, so to your,
You know,
so
'cause
to
you
the,
don't wanna put in a 4-foot to 5-foot fence and have them jumping over it.
Exactly.
well, how about a 50% see-through? I mean, I get the 6-foot-high fence bit. I really do. And I have 2 dogs.
Yeah.
One that could eat the other one as an aspirin. And so with that, instead of just the solid vinyl, the 50% see-through.
So would that be? It would be. I guess.
It'd be
3
slat,
foot and then,
space, slat, space, slat, space.
Like a picket.
I mean, you either do one of these board-on-boards, which isn't 50%, but it gives you little, or a picket.
Okay. Okay.
Now, are we talking?
Now, a 6-foot-high picket, I doubt exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to find that out. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your picket bit.
That would be the 50%
It's
see-through.
like
They do exist.
6
They
foot
exist.
high?
6 foot
Yeah,
high.
absolutely. Yes, they do.
Okay.
I mean,
but that doesn't give him the privacy of being on a.
oh, I totally agree, Mr. Irrigane, Chairman, I'm sorry. Absolutely. But I'm trying to resolve his dog issue here
What if-
and
do you know
coming
if
to a
they-
happy medium.
Do you know if they do a 6 foot with 2 foot lattice?
Yeah.
4 foot solid?
4 solid and 2 lattice.
Yeah.
They'll do anything. I mean, it's just a matter of cost.
What do you think of that?
4 foot.
4
and
foot solid, 2 foot lattice.
I
That
don't
would
mind
look.
that.
You don't mind? I think that would be very decorative.
Yeah.
I think that would look very nice.
What kind of dog do you have?
American Staffordshire Terrier.
Never heard of it.
The chairman subs for a designer too. Watch him on HGTV
No, my
on
wife
Wednesday nights.
watches that all the time,
Yeah,
please.
okay.
I just have one or two other
What's
questions.
that,
So,
wood, lap, shiplap?
The shiplap.
Shiplap,
Yep,
yeah.
shiplap. Right.
so the vinyl fence you're proposing would front Granada and the other back part of the lot, you want to put vinyl fence in there as well, okay?
The back part of it where the neighbor is
Yeah.
would be just a chain link fence.
Okay, and I see the
that's-
chain link, so the chain, but you don't want that out by the street, obviously.
No,
So we don't want that, okay. So
No, but
vi-
the vinyl's equal to, from the right to the left side. I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry about that. But the right, left, and front, if you will, is all gonna be, are all gonna be vinyl, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Just the back part.
Is that already existing, or
No.
are
there's
you
no-
gonna be,
no, the
okay,
neighbor
there's
has a
nothing?
fence there.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, they have a
Thank you.
wood fence.
Okay.
So just to be clear, are we making the exception for the 6 feet here because of the dog and the dog can jump high? Because if we start going down this road of offering decorative advice to get to people, to get what they want to 6 feet, we're gonna have 6 feet fences all over the place now.
Mr. Kaplan, I don't disagree with you. I don't
I
disagree.
just wanna be careful.
And I remember a story about a woman whose house, the topography of her house required a 6-foot solid wooden fence. And I now drive past that house every day, and every time I look at it and I say, OMG, what did we do? So, I think white vinyl fences it's a cleaner look, all right? And I think if there's extenuating circumstances, I'm not opposed to doing the 6 foot, but I agree we should still not make it a rule. I think we should still stick where appropriate to that 5 feet.
I'm not into making it a rule either, but this guy has 2 streets here, and I know, and I'm all about property owners being more conscientious about what they're buying before they buy it, but, the 50%, excuse me?
I'm sorry, I apologize.
But I'm all about privacy too. This gentleman has a dog. I don't know how high it jumps, but I mean, there's a safety factor here as well that, we don't want to test this agility of the dog. And, I'm just not sure why we wouldn't offer like a 50% see-through type of situation. Related to your comment, Mr. Chairman, about making it seem like, we're not having, these solid picket fences all over the town.
Could I try, so you came up with a 6 foot because you think your dog can jump over a 4 foot
For
fence?
the dog and then also just for privacy as
Okay,
well.
but we have to give a variance to do that, so might have to take that one off the table, okay? So the reason you came up with 6 foot, not because the dog cannot jump a 4 foot fence.
He probably could jump to the floor.
How big is this dog?
He's 77 pounds.
That's big.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's big and lean enough to be able to jump, because I got a 90-pounder, and she won't be able to jump, but if you encroach, you're gone.
You were sure of your heart out.
Exactly. So we got to pay mind to that, because, I mean, greyhounds can,
Yeah.
and they're lighter than 70.
Well, let's poll the board. Let's start over here on the right. Can you make a comment starting on the right?
Yes, I think I'm in favor because of the situation. There is a safety factor in relation to the dog leaping the fence if it's lower than 5 feet. So I would agree to doing the 5 and then the lattice 1
So
foot.
would you be willing to do 6 with 2 or 5 and 1?
5 and 1.
5 and 1, okay. Mr. Reddy?
Yeah, it's the same situation for the safety of the owners and the dog. I recommend 4 and 2
4 and 2, that's what I meant.
would
4 and
be
2. 4 and 2.
4 and 2 would be ideal.
Okay,
It makes the privacy as well as the safety both.
okay. Mr.
4 and 2 good by you?
Huh?
4 and 2 works?
4 and 2 works.
Okay, 4 and
I'll
2.
have to run
And
it
the other
by the
reason,
wife.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that maybe this consideration in this case, because it is 30 foot back from the road too, I
Right.
think it gives
That's
special
definitely a consideration.
That's
So I would be in
definitely
favor of that in this case.
4 and 2.
Yep.
I would agree.
Okay, Mr. Berkowitz, Ms. Schneider?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with 4 and 2. I mean, I still would like the 50% see-through. I still think it provides for privacy, but if, I'm okay. I'm flexible in regards to the 4 and 2.
I think it's a good compromise. Mr. Kaplan?
I do appreciate the 30 foot back off the road. I'm just not convinced that the difference between a dog jumping 5 foot or 6 foot, I really just heard no testimony that would explain to me how he knows the dog can't jump 5 feet or can jump 5 feet versus 6. So I see where this is going, so I feel free to speak my mind.
Should have brought the dog tonight, huh?
Could have been interesting.
We need demonstration.
I'm also in agreement with 4 and 2. So if you can live with 4 and 2, I think we have a deal. Okay?
So he's amending his application.
So you're going to amend your application to, for, instead of a 6 foot solid, 4 foot solid with 2 foot of. Any members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? Please come forward.
Ma'am, this is questions, so for the record, can you state your name and spell it and provide an address?
Yes, my name is Susan Wallenstein, Wallenstein. I'm at 3 Waterloo Drive. I'm sorry to meet my neighbor this way. We have not actually met yet. So my first question is, why was it necessary to clear the property? It's a wooded area, Old Powder Mill. There were 2 days' worth of tree work done, and previously I could not see through the neighbor, and now it's completely clear. So that's my first question. If you're gonna put a fence there, why was it necessary to take away these tall, old trees, which did provide privacy and shade?
We wanted to open up more land for things to start a family, have the kids be able to run around, and more landscaping that way.
Okay, because a lot of the bushes also were taken out, so I know it's the winter and the fall, you probably couldn't get to that landscaping now. The other thing is, you talked about privacy, so my question is, why would you buy a house on a corner if you're looking for privacy? Because you have all that exposure.
I really don't think that's an appropriate question for this board.
Well, the other thing is, I would be concerned about a dog getting out. I do have a granddaughter who's petrified of dogs, so I would never want to see the dog come out. I would just be concerned that the fence, if it's necessary, be as attractive as possible. All 4 of my neighbors behind and on the other side all have dogs, and when they all start barking at night, they do make a lot of noise, so I'm not thrilled about having another dog, but again, if it's a safety issue, I would not want to see the dog come out. But I'm also concerned about fitting in with the neighborhood, and that the fence should not be an eyesore.
Right, right.
And there's one other question is, why was on the map submitted to you, why is the map an old map from the original owners from 1988? I don't know where the border actually is. I mean, there are leaves and there's saplings and there's fallen trees, so it's very hard if there is a permanent marker to find where that is.
It does not appear that there's corner posts on this survey.
So how
Layman
would,
that I am,
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, the back fence is not the applicant's fence, and that the testimony was that back chain link fence that's there is, I guess, that neighbor's?
no, it's not a
It's
chain
a
link.
Oh, you-
wooden-
There's a wooden
It's a wooden
fence.
fence, but he's
Oh.
gonna
And
put
we
up
would just
chain.
put it, and we would put the chain link
Miss-
fence.
Okay.
Miss-
But there
well,
is
you only-
something else, there
you
is
only-
a runoff that goes behind our properties. And right now, that area, I call it no man's land, where like the 4 properties meet, there's all kinds of dead trees, branches that have been thrown there by various neighbors, and I am concerned that that does not get blocked up. Because during a heavy rain, that
But
fills up.
but he's putting up a chain link fence, he's not putting up anything solid in the back, if that's what you're talking about.
Right, but who's gonna clean up that area, and if
Is it
I'm
on
not
your,
su-
whose property is it on?
That's the question. Where's the
Well,
border?
now I'm gonna have two answers for you.
Okay.
One, I'm going to recommend to Mr. Kohani that he make sure, when he puts his fence up, puts it in the proper place. That may be requiring him to get a new survey with corner posts, okay? That's number one. Number two, if you have questions about particular areas of the township, I would suggest you contact the township engineer, who might be able to give you some guidance on what's there. That's not, we have no control over things like that. If he had a backyard full of junk, you know, an old car and a old motorcycle and a couple old lawnmowers, we could make him remove that as part of this application. But a vegetation that's been laying there, unless it's on his property, I don't think we have any control over it, okay?
Is this area
And we
you're
have
talking about
cases like that throughout the
easement?
township.
Is there an easement back there or not?
There's just an Osman land. There's no easement from the township or any utility that you know of.
Not that I know.
Whose
of.
property is directly behind you?
The corner of Granada.
The
not sure.
Granada, it's right
The first-
behind, I'm not sure
The
exactly.
the first house on Granada. And those fallen trees and all are beyond their fence. So in other words, you have their fence, then you have all this brush, and then wherever your fence is gonna go,
Is
I'm
this
concerned
brush
about-
on your property?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's,
We're having, it's our renovation, the landscaping hasn't been complete in the back. 'Cause
So if there is anything on your
So
property, you will take care of it?
everything's gonna be turning into grass. So
Okay.
it's all that stuff.
So whatever's on your
Except for-
property, you're willing to take care of?
Except for the back part a little bit area.
Right.
We left some trees and shrubberies, so it will
Okay.
grow into privacy from that chain link fence area. But all over here, this will
What
be-
did you, I'm sorry, what did you plant?
We haven't done anything yet, but there is, from
I do
before,
have
we
some
had
pictures.
left, there's
Yeah.
lefts of trees and everything. And it's winter time, so it does, not everything's gonna be shown right now. But we did leave a lot of the trees and shrubberies and everything in the back
I
area.
do have a picture of that house.
Well, the application tonight is about
Well,
this
unless you wanna leave your phone with us, don't show
Okay.
it to us, okay?
All right.
This is just questions and that's not testimony.
Yeah, so my
Okay.
concern is that that border, the actual survey, be very clear, because what I imagine is the neighbor's fence, and then this mess
You
of brush, and then your.
you have to understand, the onus is on him to make
Right.
sure he puts his fence in the proper
Right.
place.
Right,
If I was him, I would get a new survey with corner markers, pay the money, and then he knows exactly where his property is. Because this is dated back to 1988, and there's never been another survey. And we've had situations where fences have been put on other people's property by mistake, so. And then he's agreed to clean up his backyard if there is any underbrush,
great,
okay?
okay.
And just a note on the dogs, I understand your reluctance to have one more dog in the neighborhood, but I have residents who don't have dogs either, but one of the benefits of having dogs around is that burglars think twice about coming around the neighborhood when they hear a lot of dogs.
And there's one more question, that is, you talked about landscaping, you suggested that he plant evergreens on the inside. What about some vegetation on the outside to hide the fence from the view of the?
Well, if he agrees to the 6 foot with the 2 foot open, I think that's sufficient. We've had situations where people have wanted to put up fences and they're 5 feet from the neighbor's property line. And we've asked them to put vegetation to buffer it with the neighbor. He doesn't have to necessarily buffer Granada, since he's 30 feet back. I suggested the shrub in the inside, which would give him more privacy and maybe prevent the dogs from wanting to jump the fence.
Mr. Chairman, we can't tell for sure. So your house on the map is here, correct?
It's to the left of his house.
Right, okay, on Waterloo?
Yeah.
Okay, and so the property line there is not staked, so we're not sure where that,
Exactly.
correct?
But he's not putting his fence on your property, on the property
No,
line
not-
anyway.
right.
No, I'm
But
sure
how
he
far-
wouldn't, but
how
we
far
don't-
back
We don't know
is
where
that?
the property line
Yeah,
is, so how
okay.
could the fence installer do it
Exactly.
correctly?
Right, okay,
But if
so-
he's 5 or 6 feet in from the property line, there's a pretty good chance he's not gonna make a mistake, because he knows how wide his property is.
Well, there's also the matter of trees. I spend thousands of dollars every year being proactive, cutting down trees that have dead branches, that look dead. And I don't want to get into any disputes with my neighbors by either taking their trees down or, having their tree fall on my property.
Right, okay.
If their tree falls on your property, you're responsible, not him, so.
Mr. Chairman, just have a comment. It seems there are the property line markers on this map. I'm seeing 5 at the corners.
That's
Don't
what I
they
said too.
Don't they normally put that it's staked, Mr. King?
It could be monuments.
Well, it says right on here that it was not staked.
Utility box.
Yeah.
It says utility box.
Corner
Well, you
stakes not
got,
set
you
by
got
agreement.
field markers
It
out there.
says corner stakes not set?
Yeah, yeah, on the survey.
Where does that, where is
On the
that?
right
Yeah, but you
side.
got a
On the
utility
right side
box
under
right in
note.
the street, which is
The
called,
utility box is
which
where
is
our property is.
just right where
Yep.
your property is.
The note.
Yeah, the utility box is definitely on your property, so you
Yep.
just go
Yeah,
straight
but
back.
there is a
that's
stake
where
next
it
to the
starts.
box, the
And it looks like
utility
there's a-
box.
Now, it says in a note,
There's stone
corner
fence
stakes
there?
not set by agreement.
I don't know what the little
Oh,
circles are.
there's little stones, but not much. And shrubbery.
Okay, so you gotta get that survey done anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna have it. Our contractor that's doing the fencing and
When you
everything
bought
is
the house,
actually-
they didn't require you to get a survey?
They had this and that's what they accepted. When we bought
I
the
bet you
house.
paid for one.
Well, if you did, it'd be on your closing statement.
Yeah.
You probably got a no survey endorsement.
Usually the mortgage company. will want
Okay.
it.
So you didn't
All
hire a
right,
surveyor?
do you have any other questions,
They gave us
Who's
all
they?
this information.
Who's they?
The previous owners.
Yeah.
So you bought by owner?
Yes.
Sold and bought by owner, oh, there
Sold,
we go.
yes.
And you didn't think about hiring a surveyor?
We
to
had
protect
asked
yourself?
our attorney and everything, they said this one should be satisfied.
Yeah, I just bought a house and
Yeah.
didn't get a survey.
No,
The
I did,
survey
and
was-
I bought, sold by owner, and I got a survey,
Okay.
yeah, okay, got it, thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess not.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public have any questions of this witness on the testimony given this evening? I hear none and see none. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Does anyone want to have a testimony for or against me?
I'm gonna get that. Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation based on the amended application?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would be in favor of the application. I think being a corner lot, privacy is a little bit harder to come by sometimes. And also there's only one side that's subject to the 4-foot requirement. The other sides are allowed to be
Yes.
6 foot anyway. And the applicant has agreed to our modification proposals, a 4-foot, 2-foot, was it 2-foot vinyl?
6 foot high, 4 foot solid, 2 foot vinyl. 2 foot
2
lattice.
foot.
Lattice,
2 foot lattice.
that's the word I couldn't come up with.
Okay. Volunteer to frame a resolution? Please?
I will.
Thank you.
In application 1861, Rick and Kushbu Gadhani, 1 Waterloo Drive, block 18.2, lot 3, zone R1, that we grant a C variance to install a 6-foot, let's just quantify that, a 4-foot high solid white fence with 2-foot lattice, contrary to sections 430-33 A and B.
Second ready?
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
No.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw? Not here. Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. We'll memorialize this to next week, and you'll be able to get your permits after that.
What are my next steps?
Once we memorialize this next Wednesday night, you can see Nora on Thursday, and she can get you your papers, and then you go for a zoning permit.
On Thursday?
Yes,
Next Thursday?
Yep.
next Thursday.
Yeah,
yes.
24th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Application,
When do you have next Thursday?
next Wednesday?
Kept saying Thursday.
Well, he's,
Yeah, we memorialize on
Wednesday.
Wednesday, gets his papers
I
on
come
Thursday.
Thursday.
You go to the
Application
town
eight-
hall to get the offer. Go to Nora.
Application 1826, Zion Bao, 11 Dakota, C variance to install a shed, fence, and legalize a patio.
are you gonna testify or just one? Oh, you've
No,
already
just
been sworn?
Already been sworn.
Okay, have you been sworn
Yes. he's been
previous? How about you? You've been sworn as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there once.
Okay.
No,
You're good.
You've been out
Sit
sworn
down.
before.
So, has this application been amended, or what is
Yeah, we had a meeting with.
revised January 10th?
Yep.
This is the one they're ripping out
All
all.
right, so now we are seeking yards and courts shed, 2 feet proposed. Yards and court shed rear yard, 1.5 feet. Building coverage, 25.3, and impervious coverage, 50.15. So the patio has been cut down, is that correct?
Yeah, will,
Okay. And has anything else been done since the last meeting? Bring us up to date as to what has transpired.
The owner, has, the corner marked
Can't
on the
hear you.
back.
You
The
have to
corner
speak up.
marked, got 2 corner mark in the backyard. And also, he removed, the fence, lowered the fence to, I think it's 6 feet. I think that he got fence raised before on the pictures. Now it's get down to the ground. I think it's 6 feet.
You
And
moved the shed from one side to the other.
The shed has never been built yet. Has
Right,
not
but
been built.
originally you proposed it,
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
because
looking
it's,
at the property on the left side, now it's in the right corner.
yeah, because it's easy access, because the driveway
We
is on the right
recommended
side.
that.
Yeah.
You, have they removed the concrete or whatever was back there?
He removed
There's
some,
like a shade, it says new proposal, it looks like a kind of a crosshatch in the areas that were previously paved. Is all of that pavement out now?
so, because, I think that the owner removed some of the backyard, concrete, but he wants to do, after this, any kind of a plan get approved, then he further, remove further, before, like the zoning officer suggested, don't do anything until, get it approved.
All right, so what we're looking at on the survey shows a patio 27.5 feet wide. You've got a 6.5 foot setback from the left side, a 6-foot setback from the right side. It looks like it's about 18 feet wide. And originally, you had 70% and 73% impervious coverage, so you cut that down to 50. Are you in agreement with that? That's all I'm reading.
It's 12 feet wide, times by.
Oh, it's 12 feet?
Yeah.
I could read that, I thought it was
12
18.
by
It's 12 feet
27, yeah,
12 feet by
27.5.
27 and a half, give or take.
No, it looks like 18 to
Looks
me
like
here,
18.
It looks like 18?
Mr. Chairman, it looks like 18 here for me.
Well, if you use the 6.5 as a gauge,
Yeah,
it does not look like it's 3 times. as
yeah,
wide.
it's
Right.
It's
definitely.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second page, just the patio size, 12 times
Yeah, it could
by
be.
27.5. On the bottom of the page, that's the patio size.
Mr. Chairman, did the zoning officer go out and inspect this property?
Well, I was gonna give them an opportunity to make comments. So,
No, that's where we left it last, though, right? Isn't that where we left off?
Yes.
Wasn't somebody supposed to go out there and inspect this?
well, can we just bear, I wanna understand. Has impervious coverage been removed? What this one that says existing conditions, does it still look like that, or has part of it been removed?
Part of them being removed,
And
part
you-
of them
And what you're proposing,
is removed further, like a
you
cut
ha-
more.
oh, so you haven't removed
We
it.
haven't removed, we have not removed exactly this size yet, because we
Okay,
won't
so-
get approval. In case if it's not approved, then he has to remove again. He want to get everything approved.
Oh.
Then he do the work.
Okay,
Because he
so
did
you're
once.
looking for a 14-foot rear yard setback, which I guess is in compliance, isn't it?
Yeah, 14 feet setback
That's
from
in
backyard.
compliance, that's not a
property.
problem. He's got side yards are in compliance, right? The only thing we have is coverage
In the shed location.
and the shed location. Do you have, yeah, that would be great, thank you.
Your turn.
I've been sworn in many, many times.
And you
Um,
continue to be sworn in.
Do you want me to do it again?
No.
No, okay. If you remember from the last hearing, several of the members suggested different proposals. One of them was that they move the shed from the left side to the right side. The other was that a sidewalk be added. And that's why you're seeing the impervious increase, because even though the patio was reduced to add the sidewalk in, it then re-increased it. So there's actually, and if you see in my packet, I've provided 3 surveys. One of the surveys is the new proposal.
Mhm.
One survey is the existing conditions. And when
Okay.
we say existing conditions,
Right.
that's the existing conditions at the first inspection
Right.
by the code enforcement officer.
Right.
They started to correct and remove coverage.
Right.
But since we really didn't know what the board would approve,
Right.
whether you might have asked for the patio to move more to the left or more to the right, we always recommend for the residents to not remove anything until their hearing, because I would have hated for him to remove it and then the board approve it and he have to put it back.
Correct.
The only thing we did recommend is that the fence violations really be corrected, because I don't know if you remember from the last hearing, you had an audience full of people complaining about the fence. So we did request that the fence be lowered from 7 feet to 6 feet.
Okay.
And it really was a 6-foot fence. It was just installed on posts. So it looked to be 7 feet because there was a foot underneath. He lowered it and turned it around. So the fence is no longer has any zoning violations.
Okay,
So that's the reason for the coverage, but I thought for future meetings, and especially for an application like this, multiple surveys might help, so that you could see an existing condition and then a proposed condition. In this rare case, they were before the board and they came back. You'll see on my report, I added a 5th column, which is the new proposal, so that you'd be able to see that the original proposal, the coverage at the first time our code enforcement officer went at, he was at about 73%. Because of the lot being undersized, obviously, any enjoyable patio and shed is gonna need a variance because of the undersized lot. So we understand that, so we tried to work with him so that he'd still be able to have his shed, be able to have his patio, because I even showed on the survey now where the patio door is located, so that you could see that if he moved the patio too far to the left or to the right, he wouldn't be able to access the patio door. So I was trying to meet with them, with the interpreter, which we appreciate, to provide a better application for you. But the reason why the coverage went up is because I did draw in the sidewalk that one of the board members requested.
And just for the record, this is Jennifer Veely, who's our zoning officer,
Yes.
and who has been sworn prior to this meeting on this application, previous hearing.
Just quickly, 2 things. So, the sidewalk is proposed, that they're in agreement to that, and I don't recall why we proposed that, or recall proposing to move the shed over for easier access. The other thing I recall, the fence, there was some issue as it being not fully on their property. Was that-
Correct.
Okay.
And we recommended that corner markers be put in place to make sure that the fence
That's
was
been done.
installed 6 inches from the property line. And we have not, we've actually received several calls from residents thanking us that the fence met, and we haven't received any complaints about the
Okay,
fence.
good. So that's been taken care of.
So I think
Good.
that issue has been resolved.
Thank you. Good. Very good. Thank you.
I just don't remember the sidewalk part.
One of the members at
yeah.
the last meeting recommended a sidewalk to make it easier. I think there was the discussion about him storing in the shed, and the sidewalk was recommended. I think something about a wheelbarrow and going
Yeah,
over grass.
It makes
Okay.
sense.
And it makes
Just
sense.
makes sense.
So,
Side.
I asked him where the sidewalk is the best proposal, and they liked it near the house, because that's already where a lot of the existing coverage
Okay.
already is. So I try to propose what the applicant really wants.
Yeah, I do remember that. When I think sidewalk, I'm thinking from the outside lining of the
Yeah.
property.
Right.
So to be
It's-
able to
It's just that I have a problem with this property because it's too much impervious coverage.
It's a 40 by
Can we
100
add any more
a-
without making it a parking lot?
It's a 40 by 100. It's
Right,
4,000
understood,
square
yeah.
feet. So it's definite a hardship for a resident to be able to enjoy a patio, a house, and a shed. If it had been a 6,000 square foot lot, probably most of these variances wouldn't be needed.
So how much more concrete needs to be removed than, it's defined here under your new proposal versus the existing, right? That's pretty clear.
What we want to do is, once the board approves, we will go out and help them, or if they want to hire a surveyor and mark it, they will remove everything that needs to be removed and make it to what the board approves. And then we will inspect it at the end.
And that would be in compliance with the titled new proposal.
Correct.
Very good.
Yes, if,
And you'll help supervise that.
yes. Code
Gentlemen,
enforcement officers in the rear.
Is the shed there yet? No.
I'm sorry?
Is the shed there now?
No, was a proposed shed, and it was proposed on the left side, and one of the board members recommended it moving to the right, so I
Right.
drew it on the right
Because
to,
of
But I
make it
remember-
more
That is true.
I remember
compliant.
them discussing using the shed to put some of his equipment. Okay, so it's
Yeah,
not there.
right, yeah.
I think the original
Would it make
complaint,
would it make sense to have all the impervious material removed before the shed gets in there?
yes,
So you would not give the zoning permit until the impervious is out?
yes, correct. Once
Okay.
the board approves it, he will have to remove everything before we come out and do the final inspection.
Okay.
And then the neighbors are having flooding issues in the neighborhood. That was a lot of the complaints, was the flooding. And I think that this proposal of removing the patio to 14 feet from the rear will help with the flooding for the neighbor that's behind, who has been coming to the meetings. And I also met with her prior to this application. She had issues with the fence and the flooding. So she's had so much flooding on her property at the behind that her property is now washing away. So this application with proposing the patio 14 feet will cause the rainwater to go into the ground, and it should correct her flooding issue. She'll have to probably bring in topsoil and seed so that the water doesn't continue on her property, and I recommended her meeting with the township engineer.
I have to tell you, in defense of flooding, this past year and a half, my backyard has flooded like it's never flooded before. It's been exceptionally rainy, and I don't know what the soil makeup is over on this road, but on New England Drive, it's all clay.
Yeah.
And the water does not go anywhere. And I was forced to put in a dry well for my sump pump and for a downspout, because my backyard, and it's not I'm sure that the concrete has been in effect, but it's been an exceptionally rainy period. And I talked to landscapers, and they all say the same thing. So I don't want to see a drought, but I'd sure like to see the rain calm down a little bit. So I think
This was the most rain in something like 80 years.
yeah, it's the fourth rainiest year in history. So it's a combination of things. But I personally like this proposal. I think this, Mr. Chadwick, do you have any?
No, I think the sequence of how it gets implemented, if the board approves it, should be a condition.
Just to clarify my mind, are we taking out the whole patio and then putting in a new patio?
I don't normally get into that. That's up to him. Our concern was that when he tries to remove it, it might crack. So he might have to fix
Might
it and
better off
repair it.
taking it all
But-
out and then
right.
starting over with a new one.
Right. I know on the sides where the sidewalk is, I think he's planning to remove that, because right now because I suggested not to do it, because I really didn't know what the board would approve, and I didn't want him to remove something that he would then have to put back. But you're right, depending on what cracks and how it comes across, he might have to fix it or repair it,
So my understanding, when you brought the property, the entire backyard and the side was all paved, it was all concrete.
Yes, the
right?
original
When
survey.
you bought it, right, okay.
What you'll see in the original
Yeah,
survey,
right.
there was actually a deck there
Yeah.
at one time also. On the side of the property was a deck.
Yeah.
When code enforcement officer went out, the deck was gone and there was patio. So this property has probably had quite a lot of coverage over the years, which is
So-
probably why the neighborhood has the flooding issues.
Mr. Holloway, you have any,
No, it seems pretty straightforward, and I agree that the property corners were not set based on the notes on them.
okay.
So, no
And so
no
just-
additional items to add.
Make sure I got through, the portion called patio is really part of the whole concrete backyard. That's just gonna be now designed and called patio.
Correct. That
Right.
will be
I
the,
got
once he removes the
Yeah.
illegal concrete, that will be the remaining patio.
Very good, okay.
And just to be clear, we're taking the existing 72%, almost 73% impervious coverage, and it will now be, after this work, 50%.
Correct.
Is the applicant happy with all this? You're happy with all this? You guys are happy with this? I'm just pointing out to the, do you have a question? Please come up and use the microphone, identify yourself.
Ma'am, for the record, you just
You
state
don't have
your
to get
name
sworn in, you're just gonna
and
ask a-
your residence, where you live.
Christine Wallace, 14 Nokomis Avenue.
Thank you.
What's your question?
Okay, I was just wondering, is there a timeline? Because I'm going to have to, do something on my end of it.
Sure.
Dirt, we're gonna have to have landscaping come
Yes.
in. Because there's a difference now of a couple inches that will meet where his property begins. And so, is there going to be a timeline?
Well, you probably can't do anything before
Well,
April
Oh,
or
right.
April
No,
or
no, I
May.
understand that.
I'm
Springtime.
assuming that if he gets his approval and Jennifer goes out there and gets the ball rolling, we would hope that they would do this.
Yeah.
We can't put I don't think we can put a time.
We usually put 6 months.
Yeah, he's gotta
for approval.
do something within 6 months or come back to the board for an extension. I have a feeling that they're gonna try and do something, okay?
I mean, can we hear from them? Because, we had a recent case brought up to the board where we approved their renovations on North Beverwick Road, and it's been, I want to say, close to a year, if not over a year, and they have yet to move on it. So, to your point, I mean, can we ask the applicant in regards to the estimated time of improvement? I think that is a fair question.
Thank you, Jennifer.
He would do it as soon as, the weather permit, like, get spring or something, when the soil gets, soft, not so, you cannot do anything right now.
Understood, but, I mean, you're saying within like 5 months? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
Within 4 to 5 months?
Definitely by
5 months
May,
from April.
April or May. this
Okay.
year.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important because she has to time a lot of her projects around what you're doing on your property, sir.
Understand,
And it's only fair.
Jennifer, thank you very much for your help, I appreciate it, and I see your compadre back in the corner there, thank you, Michael, thank you. Any other questions with regard to these witnesses on the testimony this evening? I hear none and see none. There's nothing else you want to add, right? We're good at this point? We're good? Okay.
Good to see you smiling.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? I hear none and see none. Someone like to make a recommendation so we can proceed?
Yeah, I'm going to make a recommendation because I came into this anticipating me voting against it. There were a lot of problems, in my view, with credibility issues going into this project, and of course the neighbors' concern. But it seems like a compromise has been had. I'm very happy about it. I really implore you to consider your neighbor as you proceed with this project. And you know, as long as it's good with you, I'm okay with this. And you know, I applaud the collaboration here. So I'll be voting for it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Volunteer to frame a resolution? Somebody?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, well, who to speak? Application 18:26, Ziyang Bao, 11 Dakota Avenue, Block 543, Lot 10, located in the R4 zone. I move that we grant a C variance to install the shed. Fence has already been taken care of, so I don't have to deal with that. And legalize the patio as proposed on the survey that's marked new proposal. In addition to the sidewalk, as also marked on the new proposal.
In addition, the order will be removal of the cement. The zoning officer will go out to inspect, and then the shed can be put in place.
So moved.
Second ready.
Thank you. Any discussion? Laura, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Willens?
Yes.
Chairman Irakane?
Yes. Results of variance is granted. We hope this project goes along smoothly from here forward, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
I would just like to take a moment of the board's time. And some of you may have witnessed what took place at a council meeting recently, and maybe my Sicilian heritage was shown through the part of the meeting. We have been questioned. We have been questioned about what we do by certain members of the council and the mayor. And I asked them, they claimed that we granted 230 variances and we only denied 2. And I think the accusations are very, they're without basis, because there was no consideration for applications that we have made go away, where the applicant withdrew the application when they realized that they weren't going to get approval, or where we have toned down, a la this evening, someone comes with a 6-foot solid fence, and we do something to minimize the effect that would have on the town. I went through the report. You all have a copy of the report. I question what applications would they like us to turn down? They want us to turn down the oil tank on the side of the guy's house, or the applicant's house, when he had to remove a leaking tank and he has no other place to put it, or an air conditioner that was replaced that was never approved properly when the house was built at the fault of the town, not the applicant. Mini cell towers, and I can go on and on and on. Mount Tabor, you know, people's front stairs are built in the right of way where they need a variance. So and I'm gonna ask the board whether the board thinks we should do this. I think we should go back to the council with a presentation, and I'd like the board members to participate, where we show them what we do, because obviously those council people do not know what we do.
Well, now they can all watch.
Now they can all watch, right. The other thing is, and no one gave me any written, or Davey gave me a verbal comment on my idea about having a questionnaire to give to residential applicants so they can make comments about what we've done and what they think, you know, are we doing a good job, right? I mean, I personally think we are, because everybody leaves, or most people leave here smiling.
Yeah, but you know what? So these surveys go to applicants, but we're also here to protect the neighbors as well. They don't get the surveys. I mean, I have to tell you, I've been a strong proponent in regards to some of the applicants that don't get their way, because maybe there's 1 or 2 residents out there in the audience, but frankly, there are only 1 or 2 residents out in the audience protesting the application, only because the other 5 to 10 to 20 are too busy working. So, I mean, I'm not sure how effective the questionnaire is going to be, only to the applicants. I'm sure the applicant's not going to think our customer service is great because we rejected them. I mean, they're not going to come back with a favorable, oh, you're great. So I'm not sure how effective that questionnaire is going to be. Because I'm here for the betterment of the township as well as the impacted residents based on that particular application.
I'm not opposed to doing a survey, and I think when you do surveys, particularly when your role is to say yes or no, those who get an adverse opinion from the board are obviously going to take that opportunity to feel better. So we know that. So if the survey is not anonymous and has a case number on it or a name or some way we can track it, the survey gives us information. It's then our job to interpret that information.
That's correct.
So we could say, yeah, they creamed us on the survey. They were very dissatisfied, but we kind of understand why.
Right.
Or we could say they were dissatisfied about the way someone spoke to them. And yeah, we watched the tape and we can understand why. Or they could say, yeah, that was, we appreciate the compromise and the work you guys did and thanks for your time. It's our job to interpret that.
That's correct.
So I do think a survey would be a good idea, and I think we should try it. And then to Nancy's point, if we find out that we're not getting anywhere, so we stop it. But I don't see a downside in trying it, and I do think people appreciate the outreach when anyone says, in any capacity, how am I doing?
Well, I think hold on.
Would we be able to make this survey available to the objectors?
Yes,
I have
absolutely,
no
yeah,
problem
as
with
long
that.
as it's a well-rounded
How
survey.
often do we have objectors, though,
Well,
really,
I'm
on
saying,
residential
so
applications?
everybody who was.
One out of every
everybody who has
20, we have an
appearance in front
objector?
of us has an opportunity to give their opinion.
I
That would
have-
happen.
Yeah,
I
as
have
long as it's
no-
a well-rounded
I have no
questionnaire.
I'd be all for.
Absolutely.
Listen, you leave a stack. If they
Makes
want
us
to take
better.
it, they take it. If they don't, they don't.
Right.
It can
Now,
make us better.
now the other thing, and quite often, when we have people who come, and I don't want to use the word objectors, they're concerned citizens, their concerns are about issues that we have no control over. A la the area of the underbrush area. I mean, we unless it's on this man's property, we can't do anything about it.
I know that, but from a layman's perspective, they don't know that.
Well, that's why I tell
I mean,
them,
they don't come here with zoning
No,
degrees.
no, but you're missing the point. I try to explain to them that that's not under our jurisdiction. If you have problems with an issue, call the Mayor's Action Center. That's what they're there for. They're supposed to deal with stuff like this. A lot of times drainage may not necessarily have anything to, this particular case it did. And I also tempered the response by saying everybody who's got clay in their property is having water issues this time of year. But
What they appreciate though is your comments.
Our concern.
We appreciate, we're sorry that's happening to you.
Mhm.
We can't do anything, and the recommendation we would offer you is to call the Mayor's Action Center.
And I
think that would
I
make
think
them
that's
feel good.
normally what we
Yeah.
do.
I
And,
agree.
and well, in some degrees, we just may elevate it to people's attentions to the point where they collaborate voluntarily, and they don't have to call the Mayor's Action Center. But, I mean,
No,
we
but,
still have to consider the residents, and I'm here to protect the residents and the township as a whole,
Yeah,
not the
that-
applicants. I
I'm
mean,
just-
and of course, we consider.
The applicants are the township people.
Well, no, they are. No, they are. But what I'm saying is that I'm not here to seek the approval of the applicants. I'm here to consider the applicant's application, its potential impact to neighboring properties or the township as a whole, and then just make a sound decision from that. And so, in
Nancy,
regards to the
that's-
survey,
That's what we're all supposed to do.
I understand that.
This is not supposed to be a group of NIMBYs.
But I understand that. So to your point with the questionnaire, and I think we've come to agreement that a more well-rounded questionnaire, to the residents that oppose a particular project.
Give me a written response. Tell me how you want it. I threw something together in maybe a half hour. So
Yeah.
if you guys will please respond to my email and tell me what you think should be in that questionnaire, we will proceed
Well,
with it, and we'll vote on it.
I guess as the newest person and not informed through the years in the process, but from my view, there's two issues. Number one, it's the work we do as a board, and then there's the whole process of getting variances and getting certificates in our town, our variances required. tonight was a prime example. We had one case here. I'm embarrassed and insulted if that person had to be here. That was silliness for that one person to have to come here tonight, okay, in my opinion, okay? Right?
The shed that was not.
The shed.
Yes.
A tree fell on an existing shed, he's gonna put up a new shed, which is smaller, and he has to come. To me, pardon, that's what I understand that. My point being, okay, our work here, so that was a granted one. The other case.
Well, was the original shed put up with a permit? Please come forward. Was the original shed put up with a permit? No, so. There's your answer,
it was
David.
not legal.
But I understand that, but.
You know,
that
who knows, it
person-
might have been put up before zoning.
But I would rather capture these cases than let them slide.
No,
I'm
Nancy,
okay with that. We have a job to do.
That's not my point. Let me finish my point, please. Tonight, the
Did you
cases
see the
we-
question here?
Yes.
And do you have any comments or thoughts on it?
I tried to do the same thing in my departments downstairs. We created a form and we had a little like lockbox with pens for people to, after they left zoning, building, planning board, and Noor and I were controlling the key, and people would write in, and it was anonymous because I knew people were gonna be worried about, well, I'm not gonna say anything because then I'm not gonna get my building permit.
Right.
Or when they come out to do my inspection, they're gonna treat me differently. So we did it for what, Noor, probably 2 years, and hundreds of comments, probably 3 were really beneficial. The rest were, all the ladies should receive raises. You know, they weren't really heartfelt. So, you know, it's worth it to try and see what kind of comments that you can get, and hopefully that we might be able to correct it. I know a lot of residents come in and talk to my zoning department after they've been for the board. So if you provide surveys to them that they can hand out, because a lot of people have questions at that point, but they might not be honest with you at the point, because remember, they're still coming back and getting zoning and construction permits.
But what, do you find anything after someone's been here that they come back to you? Are there any comments that you might be able to feed back to us?
Oh, definitely.
That,
We could do that.
What's the average residential applicant's experience here? Is it?
A lot of them misunderstand the whole process.
So we need
And
to
they're
better
very-
educate,
they're
we need to
very
better educate
confused.
them
Yeah.
before they come here.
Yes.
They have to understand. I mean, I try to explain, you know, and sometimes I might be a little repetitious.
Like tonight was a rare time where a resident was able to answer your question, that the reason why their number went down was because they had a larger shed. I was so impressed that that resident could answer that.
Yeah, you're
Because
right.
normally,
right.
I don't think they really look at my worksheet.
No.
And I don't think they really understand that they changed something. And unfortunately, your previous coverage was illegal, and you're over on impervious because you did work without permits. But now you came and you did the right thing, and you're applying for a shed, but you still need a variance. Even though it's less coverage, you
Right.
still need it. And one of tonight's applications was for a generator. That application was a comment by the Board of Adjustment several years ago, probably 4 years ago, to the planning board, stating that corner lots should be able to have an AC unit and a generator in their, and it got approved by the planning board, and it's waiting for what, Nora, 3 years? It's been waiting for the council to approve it. So we have been begging for those ordinance changes to come through the council, because you wouldn't be hearing those applicants. But I can't give her permission like the.
No,
the one
I
tonight,
know, I understand
Because
this.
it hasn't been approved.
But why
but
won't the council, you know why the council?
I think just because they have such a full agenda, and they're so late that, and I think
Well,
something
you gotta spend
happened with
less
the
time criticizing us and more time worrying about their own stuff.
It was on the previous administration's agenda for quite some time. It's now being pushed back forward. Nora's been working with the clerk's office to get those approved, because you
Okay.
will see less applications when those ordinances get approved.
Right, but I'm glad that generation case came here, because it faces the roadway, and I don't know, you know, if the council approves it, if we can't help dictate where that generator is. Because
The
had it been on the flip side of the property, that resident would have been hearing all that mechanism in place when we have a storm.
But Nancy, that's what she said. It's on a street setback. It was
No,
not on the side yard
I
setback.
understand, I
It's
understand
a
that.
corner lot with 2 front yards.
Yeah, we
And
definitely-
and that's how that's
Right, and a lot
scripted?
of them, like generators, not so much, but the AC units, they've been there for 30 years.
Okay. Yeah.
They never got a permit for the first generator. They come around for a second generator. I can't find or an AC unit. There's no previous board approval, so they come in for a permit and we send them to the board. When that ordinance is approved, they won't have to come to the board anymore. We can give
And it's
them a
always gonna
permit.
face the street?
So
That's my point.
a
It's always
corner
gonna face
lot-
the street?
Well,
Corner.
corner lot, 2 of them
I
always
understand
face
that,
the street,
but,
so yes,
okay,
it
because
will.
she had available property towards the
Correct.
other side.
There was a certain restriction of how close it could be, and I
The
can't
other
remember
side,
off
she
the
had no
top of my.
setback at all.
So-
Yeah, she
She would've-
did. She had some.
She had like
Yeah, but
six,
she would've
4 or
needed
5
a var-
feet.
She would've needed a variance.
She would need a variance.
needed
And
a
besides that,
variance.
it would've been right next to the other people's house.
Right.
The thing was placed in the best place it could
absolutely,
be.
yes. And
Now,
we-
now it is.
Correct, and the zoning department, not myself, but the rest of the zoning department, they explain, this is probably not the best location, and they let them talk to construction about what they're gonna need to do, and zoning, and we try to propose the best location.
There's a lot of work that your department does and other departments in coming up with these applications before we even see them.
Correct.
And it's a collaborative effort, and I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of eyes that see this prior
Yes.
to it coming here.
Yes, before I do the review that the board, it's through 3 people in the zoning department. I am the 4th person looking at it that time. And a lot of times you'll see I'll redo the worksheet because I want you to have length by width, because I want you to be able to, at the meeting, be able to change something, and obviously, like, my 12 wasn't big enough and it looked like an 18.
What do you
But
think-
luckily, it was on another page, so you could
What-
tell.
I didn't know that
what
was
do
your
you think-
handwriting.
What do you
Yeah.
think about what we did with the fence tonight? Do you think that's a fair?
The only question that I would have, and I've never seen a 4-foot fence with a 2-foot lattice.
Neither have
If he cannot build,
He's gonna have to come back.
then
for
he'd have to come
modification.
back. That's my own, like, sometimes I wish we could have a plan A and a plan B. So if plan A, that he can't find a fence company who can build, if they even make 2 feet of lattice to go on a 4-foot fence, that we maybe a plan B, at times for the residents, because if he can't build that, then I'm gonna have to send him back.
John Chadwick said, it's only money.
I mean, I looked at him and said, can you do it? And he says, yes.
Yeah,
But Jennifer,
and
It's not a perfect world. We
I
don't
know
live in a
if this is
perfect
point-
world.
This is a point or not, but tonight, my understanding, let's stay with the shed example. I believe they bought the house with that old shed there. He didn't build that out of code 10 years ago, the 10 by 10.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess where I'm going with this, and yet we had somebody else buy a house without having a survey done by owner.
correct.
My point being, is in the town, we have, is there any way we can have knowledge of what was approved or not approved on some of the houses when they go for sale? In other words, how do we know if that air conditioning unit was approved or not approved when I buy the property?
Davey,
Yeah.
that's due diligence by the
Yes,
by the
it's,
buyer.
it's,
Yeah.
That
yes.
is due diligence. You're buying the property.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility to do
No,
it.
but
Believe
there-
me, I have
there-
bought properties, and I have made sure
Yeah, okay.
that everything was
Yeah,
done
but
in
there are towns
compliance.
that require inspections.
Yes.
Yes, Parsippany is not one
Yeah,
of
Parsippany
those.
is not a town.
I
But
have,
only one
I-
inspector.
I have
For a time.
I have 19 employees in the construction department,
Right.
and we are on overload.
Right, I'm
And so
sure.
we would have to hire probably 3 or 4 or 5 more.
I mean,
But it is very common that people contact my construction department and they ask for the printout. We call it Mitchell Humphrey, and it shows all the previous permits.
Okay.
But you noticed, didn't he also say that he bought it from the property owner?
Mhm.
So
Yes, he did.
when that happens, there's a lot of times
I
that
don't
they
know if
don't
you
come
know
and
that.
they
But
ask
they,
us.
but they
But
haven't, but
can.
you use an attorney to do the
Correct.
transaction.
Still have an attorney.
The attorney should do that, right?
Attorney should,
It is very
the
common.
attorney, I mean, I just bought a property down in Stafford Township. I went to the zoning office to find out what the requirements are, well, maybe it's because I have a little more knowledge than some people. But you know, it was my responsibility. I wasn't depending on
Right.
anybody else.
Requesting what open permits, usually I tell people before you ever buy a property, go see the construction department, ask them what open permits, and make sure that the basement renovation received a permit.
Yep.
That the pool has a permit, because you buy it, it's your responsibility.
Okay,
So-
let's go back to that application, 4 and 2. If the applicant cannot get 4 and 2, if he can do 4 and 1, still he has to come here?
No, if
Oh,
he,
okay.
I would give him a permit for 4 and 1, because that's less
That's-
than what you
Yeah,
require.
exactly,
Yes,
so-
but if he wants to keep 6 feet and he wants to do 5-foot solid and 1-foot lattice, I can't help
No,
it.
Chadwick did ask him to twice,
Yeah.
he asked
So
him.
his best option is, but then he's back to what he didn't want, which is, he said he couldn't do without a 5-foot fence.
He's not getting 6 foot solid anyhow.
Correct.
When he comes back, you'll let him know you can go for it.
Yeah, yeah, because, and he'll come back, he probably won't see me directly, and he's probably not gonna see Nor, he's gonna go to the zoning department. But I had the files with me, and I put a note in it already, that, that he could do that. I just wanted to comment, my reviews that I've been doing, there is a withdrawn column. I know you questioned about withdrawn, and I do have a column on there.
Was that on that report?
Yeah, it's in
It
the
was?
report, it's on page 2, like, there,
Well, don't you think when they criticized us, they would have taken into consideration the ones that were withdrawn? I'm sorry.
no,
No, because none of them.
I retract that
I just
statement.
provide my reports.
No, I retract that.
And,
I'm sorry.
And but the first one tells you how many different variants you
Okay.
created, and then the next one, it's difficult to provide for you because there's some things that are a site plan and a use variance. So I have to kind of pick which category to put them in, because if you did 100 applications and I put them in both, it would look like you heard 200 applications. So I don't know if you remember, but it was the council who was upset with, at the time, the Board of Adjustment secretary, and that's how that report started, was that she had said something at a council meeting, and we were asked to do it, and unfortunately, so that's how that whole report, and if you look, like, from the years, because I was asked to provide it for the master plan project that they're working on. That's why we had the copies, and we provided all the years. And you can see how it's pretty much the same data, but you'll see it became color where it used to be a pie chart. And
There was an inappropriate comment made at that council meeting also. The name 7-Eleven was brought up, as if we had already granted a variance to 7-Eleven, which I think was inappropriate.
Yeah,
I think
especially
that
when
could be
it's-
very prejudicial if the applicant hears that it was mentioned, and that should have never been brought up. So, I mean, we have not heard that case, we've not heard
You
that
haven't
case to
concluded the
finality.
testimony, and you haven't made any decision.
No,
And
no.
I'm not aware of anyone complaining. I didn't hear that comment. but-
Well, I think that was one of the reasons, I believe there were residents that must have called the mayor and complained about this board, about that application. That's why that was brought up. That's my guess.
we
No,
received
whatever it
a
is.
lot of people coming in for that application to review the
Right.
proposal.
There's a lot of controversy over the application, and I can discuss it at this meeting because this is, right, I mean,
Yeah,
we're not.
But we're not hearing it, and
We're not
I-
here-
I wouldn't discuss it
No,
any
no,
further.
I don't want to discuss any further, but I'm just meaning, that was brought up, and I think it was very unfair because we have not heard that case yet, so.
If the board has comments about my reviews, if there's something that I can do in the reviews to make them easier to understand, I've been to a couple meetings and I see that some of the stuff is confusing, and without knowing where I'm getting my numbers from, I don't know if.
I think for the most part, that's not the case. I mean, most of the applications we have are pretty simple. It's,
I will
there are
start
there are some that are a little bit more,
I think there's-
complicated.
I think there's confusion when the applicant doesn't really know, and they say something different than what you show, and I think that's where the confusion, but I think for the most part, I mean, you have a good board here with a lot of knowledge, and we managed to figure it out.
I think
The board
sometimes
is-
the language problems present problems
Yes.
to us.
And
I'm not criticizing anyone.
There's
It's just-
a good time frame from the time they come to zoning and then they actually go to NOR and apply their application. Then they have to get through me with completeness and then you're a busy board, and by the time you have your hearing, there's usually a couple months in between that there is sometimes a confusion about what they're in. And maybe that's something that we should change. Maybe I should meet with the resident prior to your application to go over their worksheet so that because it seems like when they're up here, they don't understand their worksheet, they don't understand their survey. Because a lot of times I fixed it and corrected it, or as you saw in that application, I redrew everything. I don't know if that would help. You know.
No, that is
Maybe
good.
maybe 1 out of every 20 you would need to do that. Most of them we can either decipher, or the applicant has enough knowledge that we can work our ways through. It's not an ongoing problem. It's not a
Okay.
problem with every
And I can provide like a before and after survey. Maybe that would be more helpful so that you can see what was there. I tried to, on the
Can you
worksheet,
do
put
that?
what was to be removed.
Well, if you could do
Yeah.
that would probably be helpful.
that'd be great.
Or if you were to give us one copy with a red line of the addition. You know, if Nora just had one copy of the survey that you redlined, here's what they're adding, so that we could pick it out.
Sure.
Okay?
Definitely.
Something
Can I
like
just
that.
ask one more question?
Sure.
Do you think it would be helpful, if there is this confusion and they don't understand the process, to give them at some point early on before they get to us, kind of a what to expect? Here's the procedure, here's how it's gonna go. We type it up, probably takes us 15 minutes of, you know, how many times do we say to people, you can't ask questions, this or that, you know?
Still gonna do that.
I know, that's why I'm asking. Like, is it worth our time to do that? Or, you know, with the applicant, here's the information you should come prepared to discuss. Make sure you review your survey before you come here. You know, be prepared, you know, after you testify, people are gonna be able to ask you questions. The board's gonna ask you questions, then people are gonna be able to give their opinion, then the board's gonna vote. Like, do you think that would be helpful?
Right now, when my review is done, before your hearing, Nora sends my application to them. Maybe we could create a cover sheet that says, please
Mr.
look
Kaplan's gonna work up what he
through.
just
knew that was gonna happen.
He's gonna put that down,
Thanks, Dave.
he's gonna put it in a Word document, and
We could put a cover page on the front
Yeah.
of my report when Nora mails it to them and
Outline
let
the
them
board's
know.
procedure.
If you know, please proof your application, your survey. These are the questions that the board might be asking. I mean, I always tell applicants, come with a plan B. If plan A isn't approved, have a plan B. Have a backup plan.
They also ought to be aware of their neighborhood.
Yes.
And the potential for someone to come out and object.
Yeah,
you
most
know.
neighbors don't talk to their neighbors, they call the code enforcement officer.
Who does a great job, by the way. Ever
Yes.
since he's been on, it's been wonderful.
It's because he still carries a gun.
Yes.
No, also I heard a lot of good thing about zoning department. Robert Pizza and you guys all are helping them to move the application. You know, they don't know what is backyard, this thing, and like
Yes.
existing, and you guys are helping them. I got the feedback very good. That's nice.
That's good, I'm glad.
I have a house in a 55 and over community, and in order to do an improvement, you have to get your neighbors to sign off before you go to the board to get approval, before you can even go to the town, okay? I'm putting a generator in down there, and I had to get my 2 next door neighbors to sign off that they approved before I do anything. Landscaping, I wanted to put shrubbery in, I had to get my neighbors to sign off. So it ain't so bad here.
Just for my understanding too, I'm an old business guy and I love numbers and charts and stuff like that. So what do you want me to read in this? What is the takeaway of this report, I guess, for me?
The first page, which is the pie chart, and I just added the color kind of so that
Yeah, that's a
it doesn't
beautiful
bore you to
chart.
death, is basically I'm counting up the amount of variances that are before the board, so that the board
Pie
can
chart,
see
yeah.
and last year's report, I think I might have put use variances on, but I felt like the bulk variances, whatever the most variances were, I'm putting into that report. So I'm kind of letting you know that over the entire year, that's how many side yard setback variances, how many front yard variances. And it's supposed to give the Board of Adjustment and the Planning Board an idea that, hey, maybe our ordinances need to be revised at this point. These
Now
are
you're
multiple.
hitting on the point I wanted to get to.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
So,
things.
And that's exactly my point. So knowing that number is nice, but I guess back, so what after I look at this, okay?
Right.
What can I do about it as a zoning board of adjustment person, okay? It's nice information. And I guess that goes on through then. And then the application type and permission for, so when we give the permission, that doesn't necessarily follow through to what they came in for. In other words, I like the columns, but a lot of times we change.
Yes,
Okay.
that is just the snapshot photo of what they originally came
Right.
in for.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
they came in for a deck, pool, and shed,
Right.
and you didn't approve the pool,
Yeah.
there isn't another column. And the reason being is when we first started doing that, Harriet didn't know Excel spreadsheet, so I filled in the data and she helped provide some of the information. So it was having the time of someone else to read that resolution and then change it. So we do this every year. Let's start filling in the report ahead of time. And then it would make it easier, and I have to be honest that this was a very busy year, and we filled the whole thing out in December. I printed every one of my reports, every one of Chadwick's reports, and I filled in all the data, and then we filled in, and I'm hoping from that you can see how many variances were and how many applications were withdrawn, so you can kind of get a snapshot of what happened in the year. And I did not provide the report to the planning board without your permission, but I'm on the planning board, and I think that information would also be valuable to the planning board because they're going to also recommend whatever changes in your report. So by them being able to see that data, I don't think we provided that to the planning board, and they see a lot of applications similar to that. Once in a while, they'll do a site plan with a sign variance, so I think that information would be beneficial to them too.
Good. Okay, very good.
And I
It's
can
just-
change the report. If
You
you
know-
want it a different way, I could do it a
No,
different way.
that's fine. You know, and I just looked and I saw we granted 6 use variances last year. And obviously, use variances require a higher degree of proof, et cetera. But if you go back and look at some of the use variances that we granted, you know, the eye doctor across the street, okay, is, you know,
The
or
bank.
the
pet-
bank,
pet-
or
Pet
pet
Indian.
store when we did that one, or the woman who did the tattoo eyebrow didn't come under the personal service, you know.
And
Yeah,
many
yeah,
of
right.
those will be corrected when those ordinances get
Right,
approved.
but I'm just saying, those are very benign use variances. They have a positive impact on this town. Brings business, people's jobs and things like that, so, well, anyways.
The review of the master plan, at one point, they're going to, I'm sure, ask the Board of Adjustment to come in and comment on the master plan. We'd like to have less commercial zones and more residential, so that areas that need a variance because they're in Mount Tabor and they don't meet, they're planning on kind of rezoning the town, hopefully, and that there'll be more uses permitted in the commercial zones, so I think you'll see less use variances, because there'll be more options for them to buy property and have the use variance, where right now, maybe they can only put it on Route 46. So I think that when that master plan and those changes are proposed, I think that will dramatically affect what you're seeing before the board, because we want to add more uses, because we have a lot of applications, you know, right now, landscaper isn't permitted anywhere. Every time they come, they're a use variance.
But
You know,
you're
we'd like
not,
to add
you're
that.
not gonna fix the 40 by 100 lots in Lake Hiawatha. You're not
No.
gonna change those kinds
No.
of things
But say
because,
like
because
Mount
you need the
Tabor.
protection. You need the protection of them coming for a variance.
Correct.
Mount Tabor, God knows what you can do up there. You know, it's funny, when I met with the Stafford Township zoning officer, they had 12 zoning applications last year. The town, 12.
Wow, that'd be nice.
And when I told him that we have well over 100, he says, well, there's something wrong with your town. You know, that's not
It's a
true.
big
It's
town.
just,
Well,
it's
it is a
the,
big
it's
town.
No,
the,
he's right.
what, there's something,
No, zoning hasn't been fixed in decades.
but you're never gonna fix some of these conditions, John.
Well,
You can get rid of, granted some of these uses and things like
Mount
that.
Tabor is so unique that it could have its own zones.
Yes, if you wanna do that.
It's big enough.
Why don't you ask her that?
you know.
But are you gonna let people put stairs in the right of way?
Sure.
I tried. Okay.
Why not?
Now, when did you do the first master plan, Mr. Chadwick? When was that? How long ago?
It's 1805.
1977?
John doesn't want to tell us how old he is.
72.
72.
1972.
That was the first one.
I was in kindergarten.
76 was the one
I was
that
two.
did most of the major zone change adjustments.
That's the year.
Were you involved in that?
That was the year I moved to
didn't
town.
That's when the ordinance got, we had the hearings in the high school.
Mr. Chairman, can we end this now?
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your input.